Hi, I'm Jonathan Callan. I'm one half of the narrative director team here at Kryptomon. With me is my co-partner in that, Greg Hahn.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Great to
Uh,
see you all on the World Wide Web. We're here to talk about what we're currently working on, and that is the world of Kryptomon, which we are right now waist deep in, and we are loving it.
this is one of the first things I'm sure that you remember that you and I tackled as soon as we got in the room.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at our core product and we said, what is the appeal here? I'm a big theme guy when it comes to narrative and even product. And, to me, the question, why is this appealing, was very important.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up coming up with three pillars. The first pillar was sophistication.
Mm-hmm.
It's no secret that we're based on that our game is sort of a twist on an older genre of game that you can see represented in things like Pokemon, Digimon, things like that. And all of those games had this stunning, I don't want to say world building, but this stunning world to introduce you to. And, there's nothing against them. When you're a kid, you don't need a lot of sophistication.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us have had the experience as we've grown older and outgrown those franchises that the simple answers it provides in its world building is just not quite enough.
Yeah.
So that was our first watchword with Kryptomon is we never wanted to accept a simple answer. We always wanted to dig deeper, do something with the sophistication that we would like to see in a game like this. Now that we are the grown-up versions of those kids who once played those games.
Yeah, and going hand in hand with sophistication, one of the other core themes is edge. Again, it's like this is not the game for kids. This is the adult version, and we don't have to soften all the edges, and we don't have to be too cute, and we can deal with the real, story themes of our real world, right? Like things like death and things like the complicated politics of our world. All of that kind of stuff we get to play around with here in the new world of Kryptomon.
Yeah, people can die in our games, and people can bring their prejudices and their biases and their priors with them into this new world. Which I think leads us to the third core theme of Kryptomon as a franchise for us, which is community. When we first looked at what had already been established in the lore that we found exciting, one of those things is the real world as we know it today that we are living in, that overnight is opened up to a world full of incredible creatures that can be received and trained and grown from an egg. And we're going to bring all the weird, complicated stuff of the real world there, right?
Yeah.
So part of what we found interesting was systems in this new world, right? What we bring with us, what we leave behind. Everybody has their own opinion on how they would make a perfect world, but none of us can start over, at least here. But on Kogia, if you found a bunch of like-minded people and you went off to some random corner, you might be able to. You might be able to try all those different utopias that we're all sure on Twitter would work, but don't really have the opportunity to test.
Yeah, and what I think is really cool about the community theme is that it's also a theme in our stories, right? Because it's not just the player community and the PvP ability, but it's also throughout our game, there's various different factions. There's different communities that have formed across the whole world of Kogia in the Kryptomon universe, and so we're going to be playing around with that a whole lot.
But that's a great point. Community is built into the very fabric of our game just because of you, the players. It's a game in which economics is not an unimportant part of it. You, the players, will be driving a lot of this economy. You will get to make decisions that shape the world of Kogia going forward, and all of those things. I think the narrative and the ludic, to use a complicated game design word, really match up really well there.
Well, I'll be honest, the process has been a blast. I mean, we stepped into this game. We didn't start from the very beginning. We've stepped in and we've kind of learned a little bit about what already existed, and we're coming in and we're doing a lot of reshaping. We're trying to fix some of the smaller like gaps that we feel like are left there and make it just kind of a bigger story that feels all congealed into one beautiful thing that makes sense. So that was our first, the first thing we kind of did when we stepped into this. But now that we're in, we're finding that this is just a wonderful sandbox to play in. It's this big open field, and we're just finding that these natural themes are coming up, and we're having a blast doing it. I feel like we keep pulling out new stuff, and I keep getting more excited every time we talk about it.
Well, we've already spoken to this a little bit, right? Our target audience is adults. And again, this is nothing against kids, nothing against the games that we grew up playing, but those games already exist. They have their fan bases, and we probably can't do what they do better than them.
Yeah.
But we can bring this totally new thing, this thing that I know at least when I play those old games from the past, wish for more of. Maturity, complication, just a more developed, the kind of narrative that we all expect from video games today after so much has been done with them.
Yeah, to put it bluntly, if you've played one Pokemon game before, you've kind of played them all. It's the same story every time. You're a little kid and you enter the world, and your mom wakes you up and you go get one of 3 Pokemon, and then you're off to the races. And yeah, sure, that was fine once, but now we want something new. And so that's something that we're really focusing on. Just like throw that story out the window and play in a completely open world, and for adults.
What does the military do when they get access to this world? What does Wall Street do when they get access to this world? There's so many things from our real world that can come into Kogia. And that's not to say there won't be quite a bit of the fantastical.
Yeah.
But I think the fun will come in the collision of those two elements. Greg and I came in, we did a complete narrative review of the franchise so far. And one of the things that we did in that is, he and I have a little bit of experience about building franchises for the long term. The game that we're currently making right now, the Kryptomon MMO, is expected to go for years and years with developing plot lines that, are kind of all these simmering pots that all are going to boil over different updates and expansions. And so sometimes when you look at that, you find that story details that were perfectly good in their own microcosm create problems down the line. So we have a little bit of a new canon. We're rewriting some of the backstory that is established in the comic. I would say it's mostly true, and we're even discussing releasing a version of the comic that would reflect the new narrative ideas that are built into the franchise.
Yeah, but I think it's safe to say that we really did our best to keep most of the stuff that fits, right? Like we just want it all to make sense, and that was the thing that we focused on. We took what was there and we're just expanding upon it, and we're only making tweaks where we felt they were necessary.
Because, I'm a fan of franchises myself.
Yeah.
I hate when they throw things out unnecessarily, when they treat what's come before as unimportant.
Yeah.
Greg and I have a lot of reverence for that, which is why we want to make sure that we can build a franchise that once it establishes something as canon, it never has to go back on.
There is a certain level of we are in a static place in the world as you're playing for the first time you enter, but as far as the individual stories, our characters are going to be encountering different things. Things are going to be moving along. There's going to be constant story progression throughout all of it.
Yeah. I would say that that's right. That designing and writing for an MMO is sort of like designing for the world's most detailed painting ever. It is a frozen snapshot of a single moment in time that tells you all about a world and the people living in it. And it has all, like I said, I used the pots metaphor before, right? But it has all these simmering pots, and then, as the game progresses, as we do updates, as we do expansions, just boom, boom, each one of those pots is going to come to a boil. That thing that we establish as a snapshot is going to start to change. And so, the way players shape our world is going to be hugely important in that. and we're going to have all kinds of fun surprises, answers to mysteries, long-term story development.
Right now, John and I are working heavily on this upcoming 3D game, and we want to see it. You know, it's going to explode. It's going to be great. I think there's so much potential there. But you know, it's going to have a certain number of regions to start. I think that once that gets rolling for a while, there'll be more regions down the line. Beyond that, who's to say? But we know that a successful franchise, as we hope that this one is, it never stops.
And there will be global plot lines and stories that carry between those regions. I mean, one thing that I always say is, you know, it's an interesting part of being a writer when you come up with so much stuff that you're interested in that you just can't fit it in the container that you have.
Yeah.
And I think Greg would agree with me that some of our favorite stuff for the world of Kogia is actually going to come in the regions that come after our initial 4 regions.
100%. I think the thing we're most excited about, that we talk about most frequently, is like coming down the line, and you gotta get to it if you want to get to it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's building this level of mystery and long-term planning is something you don't always get to do as a writer. It's a really fun challenge.
Super fun. Hey, it's been great chatting with all of you on the internet. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you, Kryptomon fans. Thank you for welcoming us in.